Happy New Year! I wanted to go over my 2025 top books that I had read in the year. I tend to do just all my 4 and 5 star reads, but because I read about 260 books in the entire year, and I say that because as I am doing this video, I have read 257. I have about 3 that I'm going to be finishing before the end of the year. So then it will equal 260 books, as I'm working on 2 right now. So what I started to do when I was planning this video a few months back, I decided I would do my top 3 books of every month of 2025. But this is my way of doing a short list for you because I only had, I think, 7 5-star reads the entire year ahead of that huge bunch. So let's start with January. I took this book that my husband has had for several years. He loves this book, so it's one of the only ones he has kept. The Annotated Alice. Alice Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. It's 2 books in one, really. What I love about this book, because you already know the story of Alice in Wonderland probably, but if you haven't read it, it is charming. But the best way to read it, I think, is to read it with the annotations, because a lot of it is hard to understand or it doesn't fit with our society today. If I get stuck on something, then I can read the side to see the history about why it was written about the way it was. And I loved that. It was so much fun. This was just so good. I never thought I would really love this book, but I loved it. White Mulberry. I'm only going to talk a little bit about some of the books because you might not have heard of it. And I didn't have a booktube when I read this book. White Mulberry is about a woman that was in occupied Korea by the Japanese had occupied Korea, but then she moved to Japan with her husband and lived there for several years. So it's a story about wanting to come back to Korea, but living there as much as she could and dealing with the hardships there during that time. But it was the first story that the year I was like, this is a breath of fresh air for me to read a book like this, a historical fiction book. I just really adored it. Just to learn the struggles that someone would have gone through being a Korean living in Japan at that time. And of course, Summer's End is a Shady Hollow book. I've talked about the Shady Hollow series multiple times, so I'm not going to go through it, but Summer's End was very fun. If you have not read this series, I recommend it highly. In February, it was like a really bad reading month for me, but the one book that I really loved was Ella, a novel, and this is about the life of Ella Fitzgerald. It is a fiction story based off what she had mentioned about her life, so it's as if she was a teenager before she became a star, and I loved this. In March, my top books were Persuasion, which I had only read for the first time, and then there was The Complete Brambley Hedge book. Now this is another children's story. It has gorgeous illustrations throughout it. If you've never read these, like I had never read these until now, and I read them to my toddler, but this is great for adults too, and I know lots of adults that have this. Look at this art. It is brilliant. It is so unique and filled with details. And then The Blue Castle, which I loved this. March was when things started to get really good in my reading because I had 2 5-star reads then. So Brambley Hedge was one and Blue Castle. And this is by L.M. Montgomery. It was so good about a young woman that was trying to find her own after being controlled by her family for so long and to find love. It was humorous and it also made me feel so much. In April, now there is duology that I read that I really loved. I would say if I had to choose one of those, it would be the first book. And this is Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. I love both books. So I have both on the list. This was a fantasy, a romantasy, I guess it would be called. And it was about a couple that were writing letters through a wardrobe, I guess, but using magical typewriters. There was a battle going on between these gods and goddesses and all these soldiers fighting each other. And so these are reporters that are going through a situation and they find one another to get through it. And The Ghost of Mrs. Muir, which was so fun, about a woman that has this ghost that lives in her house, or I guess she lives in his house, and they come to a compromise and a friendship together as she lives throughout her years as a widow. Sunrise on the Reaping, this is from The Hunger Games. It was the latest book. It was the second prequel, and it was about Haymitch's story. I loved it, absolutely. In May, I had The Lotus Shoes, which is a story about 2 girls in China around the time that foot binding started to become null and void, but it's about their struggles. One is a maid for the other one. It was very fascinating to look into what they would have gone through maybe in that time, being someone of high society and one that was a maid, but one has a deep talent. The Marriage Pact is an Amish romance, and this was my best top Amish book that I had read this whole year. And this was about a young girl who has a boyfriend. He doesn't really seem to care much about her, but then she goes somewhere where she meets this other guy, and both of them have been nudged so hard to get married by their families that they decide to pretend like they are in a relationship. But obviously we know how that can turn out. When you are pretending so much, you start to find yourself with feelings for them. And I got so sucked into that one. A Cry of the Heart. This was a woman, her survivor story of human trafficking. It was very detailed, very amazing, and how she found God through her low times. In June, I had A Hint of Mischief. This was a fairy garden mystery book, which I had talked about multiple times throughout the year because I read several of the books from the series, and this one was amazing. This is about a woman that has a little fairy friend that helps her solve mysteries. It's a cozy mystery. It's sweet. Then I had the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, book 1 and 2, because I just loved them. So that's both of these here. They were so fun. And I've talked so much about them that I'm not going to go into it right now. And you'll see me talking even more about the rest of the series as I continue in this new year. In July, it was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This was about a young girl who there was a murder in her town, and she is trying to solve it because there is a guy that had been charged with the murder, but he is now dead himself. He has been said to have been the murderer, and she doesn't believe that, so she wants to solve it. The Secret of Nightingale Wood. This was an amazing middle grade story about a girl that is trying her best to get through her life, and she loves nature so much, and she misses her mom, who has been put into a facility. She's doing her best to find answers about where her mom is, why her father isn't around as much, and how she can move forward. And there is a lot of trying to understand how her own brain functions. It was delightful. This was definitely like one of the best middle grade stories I've read. Some Like It Scott. This is a contemporary romance about a woman that she's very known for traveling different countries and doing a lot of video footage for those things. And she goes to Scotland. She meets this man who is a grump and they don't get along, but she is so into this castle in this one area for the history, and she loves learning about it. But she starts to interact more with this Scottish man and finding him irresistible. Their interactions are hilarious. August, The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, Volume 3. I know, this one was my favorite of the series that I had read so far this year, which I read the first 5 books. I look forward to the last ones. The next was The Warden and the Wolf. This is from the Wingfeather Saga. It is the 4th book. It was so deeply touching. It was very long, and I read it to my family. This was definitely a great fantasy series to read, and it is a middle grade book, so it is on that younger side, but it's all about some brothers and a sister trying their best with their family to survive Nag the Nameless, who is destroying all of the children, basically putting them into labor camps. And then Women Who Risk, which I talked so much about. This is about women that were living in different parts of the Middle East that were coming to know Christ, and how it impacted them greatly, and how even though they should be killed for what they believe in, they don't fear that, and they keep spreading the gospel. In September, there was Murder and Postscript. This was a mystery series that I had just started. I've only read the first book so far. I plan to read more of this in this new year, about a woman who is doing a column, and she is very rich. She's a widow, but she really loves to write and help people. But she gets a letter from a young woman who is being threatened, and she wants to solve this case, but finds out that there is a murder and a string of murders. Then there was Speaker of the Dead. Absolutely amazing science fiction book that I read. This is the 2nd book in the Ender Game series. It taught me so many things, and it had a lot of violence in it, but wow, it was impactful. And then there was Rebecca. I enjoyed the story a lot, about a young woman who married a widower, and there is a mystery around this woman that he had been married to, and this new wife is very much compared to this first wife. But then there is a whole bunch of suspense along with it. In October, The Witch of Blackbird Pond, which is a middle grade book about the Salem witch trials. Autumn by the Sea, and this is about a girl who's trying to find about her own identity. She had been raised in an orphanage, put through the foster care system, and she doesn't really know much about her family. And there is a woman who thinks maybe she is related to them. So she goes to Maine, helps them out, and tries to see if she is related to them or not. And it was so touching. Tell Me Everything. This in particular was a book about a woman investigating a case where there are many women abused in different forms by football teams by a certain university, and how she wanted justice for those women. In November, The Fault Between Us was about a wonderful trio of sisters and how they endured a major event that took place in the 50s over in Yellowstone National Park, how they were able to endure that with their faith. It was amazing. This was one of my 5-star reads. Small Things Like These, and this was about a family at Christmas time and a man in particular who had been raised by a young mother, and the mystery around his mother, where she had lived before someone took care of her when she was pregnant with him, and then what other young women have been going through. And it is a very fascinating story and very good. Also a 5-star read. My only reread for the year, which was The Neverending Story, one of my all-time favorite books. I adore this book. Yes, this is a great fantasy story, and it goes way beyond what you would know from the movie. And then in December, it was If I Run, which was a Christian thriller about a woman that is on the run being accused for a murder, and how she ends up solving some cases even though she's still on the run. And then there was Alliance Bride, which I do still have, but it's in my car because I'm trying to find it for a little library. But Alliance Bride, which is about a couple that has a marriage of convenience in order to bring peace between two tribes. And it is a fantasy story with a lot of like a Norse type of feel to it. And then The Seaside Homecoming, this was part of the Devonshire Shores series. And I had said how this was my favorite book from the series. This was about a woman from a family that had a boarding house, and she had lived 2 years in Scotland. She came back, and she is now running a boarding house as a partner with another person who is a widower. How she is able to find herself moving forward in her life the best she can, even though so many people look down on her for some sort of situation that happened to her 2 years prior. So those were all my top books of the year. I would love to know maybe 1 or 2 of your top books that you read this year. But before that, I wanted to bring someone in here. I'm going to introduce my husband to my channel just for today to start the new year off for my top books of the year that I had for 2025. And I wanted to bring him in. This is Rob, my darling.
Hi.
So he read some books this year too. And this was your best reading year as well as my best reading year.
Yes, it was.
How many books did you read this year?
37 in total, I think it was. Yeah, 37.
How do you feel about reading all of that?
Pretty good. Because I mean, my goal was 26 and I managed to do 37. I was kind of hoping to squeeze in 40, but the last month and a half, we got a little bit crazy with school and just stress stuff with work and everything, and yeah, I wasn't able to keep
He has
the
a very
pace,
busy schedule.
so.
Okay, so can you tell us your top 3 books of the year?
I think you'll be surprised at what I decided.
Okay.
No particular order. Gonna go with The Testaments by Margaret Atwood, the sequel to Handmaid's Tale, because I read Handmaid's Tale, like a decade ago?
Yeah.
And I was in like a big binge going through banned books, and just really enjoyed it when I read it. I enjoyed The Testaments even more. I know, that's okay. You'll be okay.
He told me all about it though.
Yeah. She basically knows the book anyway. Second one, I would have to say actually was the Man Who Died 7 Times.
Really?
Because
that does
I had
surprise me.
so much fun with that book while I was reading it. Couldn't put it down.
And we both read that this year.
Yeah.
That wasn't one of my top books at all.
That's okay.
But it was good.
But it was a lot of fun. It was just, like I said, constantly like as you're reading it, trying like, what's going on? What happened? Like wanting to figure it out. And then the last one, which more of like a novella or a short story, but Fahrenheit 451, because
that doesn't surprise me.
Because I found one of my all-time favorite like quotes from a book, like excerpts.
Do you have it
like,
memorized?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But it's just really good. Like the short story is okay. It's good. It's not like it's bad. I think it's my first Ray Bradbury that I've read. I'm pretty sure of that.
I mean, that's another banned book.
Yeah, that is. Exactly. And it took me until this year to read it too. In the course of it, where they have the discussion about wanting to find a big machine and dig a giant hole and putting war into it and burying it forever. That just, when I read that, I was just like, it was just really, really good, like the way it was written. And it was funny actually, because I had read it and it was like, wow, that's really good. But then I went and when I read it to you, like read it out loud, I like broke down.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow. Like
he reads me portions of what he's reading sometimes if it's impactful.
Yeah, if I like it a lot, especially, I'll make a point to share it and read it to you. So.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have a little jar here of physical books that I have. These are books from my Nook and books that I physically have currently for my 2026 and winter read. And there are actually a couple of these that are on my Nook that were not on either of those lists. So I'm going to have you pick which one I should read first. Oh boy. I'm kind of nervous if it's one I don't really want to read first. What is it?
A Seaside Wonder.
All right. And the first book was in one of my top of the year. So now I get to read here. I have it here. This will be the first book that I read in 2026. That's exciting. And he got me this for Christmas.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I did.
You can go if you'd like. Thank you for being my guest today. I enjoyed having you. And I shouldn't put that back in because maybe I could choose the next one
some other time.
Yeah. Maybe you could choose my next one even afterwards. You could be my little picker.
Was that it?
I don't know. I lost it. Why didn't I take it out? Here it is.
There, you found it.
All right. Well, thank you. And I look forward to a new, amazing year for reading. 2026. I don't think I'll read as many as I did in 2025. I think I'm going to slow down a little bit, but it was insane that I read 260.
Regardless, the point is that's a lot of books.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.